In World War II, the sky was supposed to be simple. If an airplane lost its tail, it fell. If a bomber broke in half at 20,000 feet, everyone aboard died. But again and again, crews stepped out of wrecks that should have buried them, and aircraft that were already dead refused to fall. This is not a story about luck alone. This is a story about pilots who knew their machines better than the manuals. About airframes so stable they could almost fly themselves. And about a handful of decisions, made in seconds, that turned certain death into the narrowest margin of survival. These are 7 times, in the most brutal air war in history, when physics seemed to lose, and human beings, hanging in the sky by aluminum and rivets, somehow won. February, 1943. 2 miles above North Africa, a B-17 turns for home. Behind it, the target is still burning. Ahead, the crew can almost see the coastline they have to reach if they want to live. And then the flak catches up. A shell explodes just behind the tail. The blast rips through the rear fuselage. Metal screams. Men are thrown from their seats. When the smoke clears, the crew sees the impossible. The entire tail section is hanging by only a few twisted spars and cables. If you can stay with me till the end so as you discover how the pilot knew his plan more than the manufacturers. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Also turn on your notification bell so you don't miss out on any new post. In a normal world, this is where the story ends. No tail means no elevator. No rudder. No control. But the pilot feels something strange through the yoke. The aircraft is still, sort of flying. He knows if he yanks on the controls, he'll tear off what's left. So instead, he flies with the engines. The crew jettisons anything they can lift: ammunition, guns, armor. Every pound is another reason for the airframe to snap. 4 hours, they limp toward friendly territory. It exists on the edge of a stall, suspended between flying and falling. Finally, the coast appears. The pilot lines up. He keeps the approach shallow, terrified of any sudden change in angle. The B-17 kisses the ground hard, but it holds. When they step out, nobody speaks. Because everyone on that field knows, this aircraft had no right to be on the ground in one piece. Not every miracle had a hero at the controls. Sometimes, the machine itself refused to die. Late in the war, over Germany, another B-17 is fighting for its life. Engines are failing. Fuel is pouring out. The order is given: abandon ship. One by one, the crew disappears into the freezing air. The last man glances back at the cockpit. The seat is empty. The throttles are set. The bomber, lightened of its crew and bombs, flies on. Hours later, at an airfield in England, ground crews hear engines. They look up and see a lone B-17 approaching. No radio calls. No flares. It drifts over the fence, sinks toward the runway, and slams into the earth in a rough, wheels-down landing. Fire crews race out. But when they pull open the hatch, something chills them more than any wreck. The fortress is completely empty. Parachutes sit in a neat stack by the radio room. To the men who saw it, it was proof that sometimes, even with no one left at the controls, a flying fortress could still live up to its name. December 1943. Ye Olde Pup turns onto its bomb run. A shell explodes beneath the nose. The plexiglass shatters. Freezing air pours through the front. More hits follow. An engine dies. The bomber drops out of formation, a death sentence. In the pilot's seat, Lieutenant Charlie Brown refuses to let go. His hands are numb. Blood is freezing on his flight suit. He finds one setting on the trims where the bomber will hold level. He turns toward the North Sea, dragging the mutilated fortress away. A German fighter pulls up alongside. The ace stares into the cockpit. He sees blood on the glass. He sees men slumped over their guns. Instead of attacking, the fighter slides into position at the wingtip, and stays there. 4 miles, the enemy pilot escorts the crippled bomber, steering it away from flak batteries. Only at the sea does he salute and peel away. It is a small, impossible act of mercy in a sky designed for killing. Not every miracle involved an airplane limping home. Sometimes, the only thing that fell from the sky was a man. January 1943. A B-17 is ripped apart by flak over France. Waist gunner Alan McGee is blown into the open air. He reaches for his parachute, and finds it shredded. There is nothing between him and the ground but 20,000 feet. At terminal velocity, a human body falls at 200 kilometers per hour. Survival is statistically impossible. He never feels the impact. His body smashes through the glass roof of the Street Nazaire train station. Girders, rafters, and thick panes shatter beneath him, stealing his momentum layer by layer. When German medics find him, he is broken, but breathing. He should have died when the bomber exploded. He should have died when the parachute failed. He didn't. He became living proof that even from the edge of the stratosphere, survival sometimes finds a way. Sometimes, the miracle is knowing when an aircraft cannot be saved. December 1943. AB-24 over Alaska develops engine trouble. Power flickers. The aircraft begins to shudder in a way every pilot dreads. As the aircraft rolls, Lieutenant Leon Crane bails out. Within seconds, the bomber vanishes into cloud. There is no fireball. Just snow, sky, and silence. He lands alone. No wreckage. No supplies. From this point on, survival isn't about lift or drag. It's about discipline. Crane builds shelter. He rations food. He walks. 84 days pass in the sub-zero wilderness. When rescuers find him, he isn't waiting by a wreck. He walked back to civilization. His decision to jump gave him the chance the machine no longer had. High above Europe, formations flew tight. Too tight. On one mission, two B-17s cross paths. Metal meets metal. The impact shears off a massive section of one bomber's tail. The rear fuselage separates, spinning away like a thrown spear. Inside, a tail gunner is trapped in a tube of aluminum hurtling toward Earth. It is dark, roaring chaos. But the wreckage catches the air. Instead of knifing down, it flutters. When it hits the ground, it shatters, but not completely. The gunner crawls out. Around him, the rest of the formation is gone. He rode a severed piece of bomber to the ground and walked away. By late 1944, crews had seen everything. But what Lieutenant Crawford did astonished them. His bomber was mangled. A normal landing would cause a cartwheel. So, he decided to land backwards. He brings it in nose high. Dangerously high. At the last moment, he lets the tail strike first. The rear of the fuselage acts as a skid, absorbing the energy. Metal screams. The fortress slithers down the runway. It was a maneuver that existed in no manual. It was technically suicidal. Except that it worked. World War II aviation is often told in numbers. But inside each aircraft sat men who refused to accept that their story had to end. The laws of physics never changed. Gravity always pulled. Metal always broke. What changed was how far human beings were willing to push themselves in the tiny space between living and dying. The machines are museum pieces now. But the stories matter. Because they aren't really about airplanes. They are about what people can do when there is nothing left between them and the sky, except courage, knowledge, and a sliver of hope.